Now I'm going to ask Paul Hudrick. It's Happy Hour Friday. What's his happy hour beverage of choice this weekend? He doesn't have the hat on. I thought he'd maybe go with a K-May. We'll see. Looks like he got a big smile there for the cold one on a Friday here, bud. It is a Happy Hour Friday. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great, man. And cold one sounds good. I will be definitely enjoying 1 or 2 or 5 of those at some point this weekend.
We're going to need one after what we saw over the last 3 days. 3-game losing streak and the panic button out there. A lot of people after last night. Now, I think if you are a little bit more real with what you saw a team at the end of the line gassed a little bit against a team that was pretty fresh. But is that an excuse? If you're a championship team, do you figure out a way to compete in these games?
I don't look at it as an excuse, but I look at it as just the reality. Yes, if you're a champion, like you want to be a championship team, but you're also human beings. And the Milwaukee Bucks hadn't played a basketball game since Monday. Think about that. The last time the Milwaukee Bucks played, the Sixers were getting torched by Steph Curry, which feels like it was a month ago. And then in that time, the Sixers, played a really tough game against what I believe to be the most underrated team in the NBA, and the Suns took them down to the wire. Very short-handed, I might add, without Tobias, without Seth, without Ben Simmons. And then they have to go into Milwaukee the next night. They're plenty rested, and they still don't have Ben Simmons, which I think was a huge part of the reason why they lost. Not having, Doc said the reason he didn't want Joel Embiid on Giannis Antetokounmpo from the start is just the situation, the back-to-back, and how worn out Joel Embiid probably already was. Well, if you have Ben Simmons, that's not as big of a concern. Ben Simmons did a really nice job against Giannis last time for 3 quarters, and I thought he kind of ran out of gas because they were on a back-to-back that night too. So it just seems to keep happening with the Bucks. So I would say it's, of course, like you want to win every game, like you never want to lose. But I think if you went into this game expecting them to come out on fire and pull off this win, I think you were just kind of setting yourself up for disappointment.
Yeah, I want to kind of highlight Ben Simmons not being there, and we can get to. Do you have any idea what's wrong with him at this point and what his prognosis is?
Yeah, Doc Rivers kind of hinted at it was like a stomach flu situation. So if that's the case, you get it from a couple different perspectives. You get it. One, if anyone's had the stomach flu, that generally puts you on your butt for a couple days. You got to worry about hydration levels, and then also I think they were just worried about the team. Why would you want him near the team if he has the potential to spread something like that? You're already shorthanded. You already have had, your kind of COVID situation lurk for your team. Don't want something like that creeping up. And I think there's been something going around the league where you've seen a few guys showing up on the with an illness, non-COVID related. So I think it's a stomach illness, and I think it's just putting him on his butt for a few days here. And they just want to make sure that he is not. He's because we all have seen Ben. Like, if one thing you could say about Ben Simmons is he plays hard every single night. He plays a lot of minutes every single night. So I don't think they want to put him in a situation where he's not 100% healthy, and then they put him in a spot where whether it's just wearing him out or possibly getting hurt or whatever. So I think they just want to make sure he's 100%, and so hopefully he's there Saturday. Doc said he's 50-50, so we'll see.
By the way, Sixers fall to 5-6 without Ben Simmons. They're 9-9 without Joel Embiid. But I mean, watching them without Ben Simmons, you can almost make a case how important he is because defensively they stink without him.
Yeah, it's a very fair point. And that's the one thing you got to listen. Joel Embiid is great. Joel Embiid deserves to be an MVP candidate. Without Joel Embiid, this team is not very good either. But when you look defensively, when they played well without Joel Embiid, they have that 7-3 stretch. Someone could check me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure over that stretch they were number 1 in the NBA in defensive rating, and that's without Joel Embiid. So I mean, clearly that's Ben Simmons leading that charge. I mean, the guy has been excellent defensively. As I mentioned, the last matchup against the Bucks, he held Giannis in check for 3 quarters. If you remember, the Sixers built out a huge lead, and part of that was Giannis really wasn't that effective. And then what I thought happened was the Sixers were coming off the back-to-back, and I think they had played a tough game against the Knicks the night before. You could just see in the fourth quarter they wore down. Ben Simmons was doing a great job fighting through screens early, which is something he's really good at. Just didn't have that much effectiveness in that category in the fourth quarter overtime and couldn't carry it over. But yeah, Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons are the 2 best players on this team. There's no other real way to break it down. Joel Embiid is the most important offensively. Ben Simmons is the most important defensively. So if you take either of those guys out of the equation, it's going to hurt. And I just think, to your point, Mike, over the last couple of games, we have seen how big of a difference Ben Simmons makes. Even the detractors have to recognize how much of a difference he could have made over these last three.
You'd be surprised. Here we're talking with Paul Hudrick, the Sixers insider from 97.3 ESPN.com. And Paul, I thought at least Doc acknowledged, too, if this is a playoff game, we're playing Embiid on Antetokounmpo. We didn't play him there because it was a back-to-back. And Ben Simmons wasn't here. Simmons would have – they would have been – so the game would have looked a lot different. I think we can all understand that. I watched the game. I didn't see it live. I had to watch it this morning. The takeaway that I got from that game was not much, but I was happy to see Milton look like he had a little I don't know. He was back to himself a little bit last night. And I don't know. Is that he was tired, he hit the wall a little bit, or is he just an inconsistent player?
It's funny, like when you look at like his game logs, if you're on Basketball Reference, if you're like me, you're on there every day looking at stuff. It's like a stretch of all these games in double figures, like all these pretty good games, a couple of very good games mixed in with over, plus 20, near 30. And then there's like 2 games where he's single digits. And it seems like that's been his pattern, is a bunch of games that are pretty good with a couple of really good ones mixed in, a couple bad games and then back. But I think 2 things, Mike. I think every player is not great every night. That's just the reality. And bench players too, particularly, seem to be that way. But the good ones don't have prolonged slumps. And I think that's what we've seen out of Shake this year, is that when he has struggled, it's a game or two and he snaps out of it. Hopefully those games don't happen as often in the playoffs. You never know. But I think I'm more encouraged by the fact that after he seems to have games like this, he does typically bounce back. And it's funny, I think about it, and I said this to a colleague last night. If they got to shake Milton from Milwaukee against Phoenix, they beat Phoenix because he was that good against Milwaukee. So, but listen, it's the way the league goes. It's ebbs and flows. Doc Rivers didn't want to panic either after the Phoenix game, after he had a couple rough nights. So it's just, I think it's partially ebbs and flows, partially bench players kind of tending to just be a little streaky.
Yeah, I know. I want to get your take on what we've seen. I know that people want to see George Hill and what they think of him. I think it's hard to get a handle on him because this isn't the role they envision him in. But still knocking the rust off. But give me a little synopsis, the Hudrick synopsis.
He's been solid. I think he's been what they thought. I think the one thing, he's been a little passive offensively, which is to be expected. New team. There's plenty of other options that they're kind of more go-to guys. So I think he has deferred a little bit more than maybe I would like to see going forward. But I just think that's him assimilating himself. I think defensively, you're seeing that he can be, listen, he's not an all-world defender. He's not Matisse Thybulle, but he is a good defender, a solid defender who can hang with guys, who has played tough assignments. I love his ball handling and what I think that could bring to the table. I'm really intrigued to see him in lineups with Ben Simmons, because we have not seen that yet. So I'm really interested to see what that looks like. Maybe get him and Ben Simmons and some pick and rolls, some dribble handoff stuff. And there's just like, Mike, there's just so many little things he does that it's stuff that just won't show up in a box score. There was a play against Phoenix where he just had the ball in the wing and Joel Embiid was jockeying for position. And you just saw the patience of George Hill just looking around the court, waiting. And then finally he saw Joel Embiid open for a split second and found him, and Joel Embiid got fouled. And then the other play against Phoenix at the end of the third quarter, where time was winding down to end the quarter, and I'm like, man, is this guy going to get going or what? He hits it, and he gets fouled at the last second. Just, I think that veteran presence, those little things that he does, those nuances in the game that don't show up in box scores, that maybe aren't, mind-boggling things, but that will help a young team to have a guy like that is playoff tested and does do those little things.
Yeah, I know that the frustrating thing, I guess, for me anyway, I mean, obviously I get it, but I don't anticipate that this is the role that he will be in. I would imagine. I guess you'll see him with Simmons, right? They haven't played together in a game yet. Simmons hasn't been back, so you'll probably see him complement Simmons in some, but also allow Milton to not have to, handle the ball so much. We haven't got to see Hill in his true form. So that's something. Harris back last night. What'd you think there? I mean, is this something that they're worried about, or was this just, hey, give him a couple nights off so that he's ready to go for the stretch run?
So he missed a couple games a little while back with a bone bruise in that same knee. So I would assume I don't know this for a fact, but it seems like he was trying to play through it. They realized, hey, the only way this is going to get better is if he just rests. So I think that was the point of that was, let's get this guy healthy now. Let's get him 100% now so that we have him for the stretch run. We have him for the playoffs. He said last night, he told us he's pain-free.
Okay.
He said he felt good health-wise last night. No issues with the knee at all. Said it was just a matter of getting his rhythm back, which you saw. He was rusty early.
Yes.
Didn't quite look like himself. But that when they made that run in the third quarter, he looked really good. So I'm certainly not worried about him long-term. I think if anything, he just, like I said, I think the only way that was going to heal was rest. So, and I think he was trying, because of the kind of guy he is, the kind of type of player he is, he's been so durable throughout his career. I think he was just trying to play through it. And they realized, that's not the smart move. Smart move is sit now. It's a tough stretch to sit, but he had to do it. And now I think it's going to be worth it because now he's 100%. So now you have him for this game Saturday in Milwaukee, and you'll have him for the last few games where you can maybe try to separate yourself a little bit as the 1 seed.
Well, they need it because with Milwaukee's win last night, you got a game and a half separating the top 3 teams in the East, right? I mean, so this game on Saturday, it's getting tight up there, man.
Listen,
it was 4.5.
I want to say this.
It was 4.5 on Wednesday.
Right. It's big. It's a big game. If they win, it's huge. If Milwaukee wins, it's huge for Milwaukee. What I would say for Sixers fans, though, is if they wind up not winning, they still are in a really good spot to still take that 1 seed because over the last stretch, that schedule is just not nearly as tough. They play 3 home games coming up, I believe, right after that Milwaukee game. The remainder of their opponents aren't nearly as strong. And look, Mike, before, they started this 7-game stretch with that game in Dallas. And we all agreed that was, if not the worst stretch of the season, one of the most brutal stretches, either that or that 6-game roadie was also very tough.
Yeah.
But listen, they have a chance if they win Saturday to go 4-3 on their toughest stretch of the season. And that's with multiple guys in and out of the lineup and them being banged up. So if they manage to do that, first of all, that's pretty darn impressive. And second of all, they're in pretty good shape. As I mentioned, as the schedule is going to get softer, as they're going to get healthier, Ben Simmons is an illness. He'll be back. It's not like this is something that's going to keep him out for the season or like a lingering injury. He will be back. I think Joel Embiid has looked very good. I think he looks healthy. Seth Curry, I think, has been a little up and down. Hopefully he kind of gets righted. And the more George Hill gets assimilated, I think they're in a very good place. Would you prefer to win Saturday? Of course, and it would be big. But at the same time, I don't think if they lose, it's this catastrophe. I think they still have everything they want is still right in front of them if they lose.
Simmons is 50-50. You get a win without Simmons in Milwaukee. I'll shake my hand. You'll get a handshake. Good job. But you got to keep it going. Of course, Paul Hudrick at Paul Hudrick, a big game tomorrow night, and then Oklahoma City on Monday. By the way, check out that article that Jay Blevins wrote, 40 before 20. They didn't get it. They had 3 chances to get there. They didn't get it. 20 came before 40. They are 39 and 20. What does 40 before 20 mean? Go read that piece from Jay Blevins over at 97.3ESPN.com. All right, Paul, we'll talk to you Monday, man.
Sounds good, Mike. Thanks, man.
And he, like all guests, appeared via the Boardwalk on the Hotline.